Today on The Big Picture, it's the first time South Carolina's two senators sit down for an extended interview.
People are really asking me wherever I go, is Bush going to go to war? President Bush doesn't want another war with anybody.
We've got a problem. We need to solve it. We can't ignore it.
Lindsey Graham and Jim DeMint, today on The Big Picture. Welcome to The Big Picture. I'm Andrew Gobeil. For the first time, South Carolina's two United States senators have decided to sit down together for an in-depth, at-length interview about issues ranging from Iraq to Pakistan, from the economy to gas prices here in the Palmetto State. We'll sit down and talk with two United States senators from South Carolina, Senators Lindsey Graham and Jim DeMint.
Before we go any further, the last time this job came open was in 1954. I was born in July of '55, so the graveyard's full of people wanting to do what I'm doing tonight. But this night needs to begin with this thought. God bless Senator Thurmond for all he's done for us. Thank you, Senator Thurmond. Thank you for being what you have been to this state and this nation. And ladies and gentlemen, there will never be another one like him. This joke about me being 48 years is just that. I'm genetically term limited.
And so began Lindsey Graham's tenure as South Carolina's newest United States Senator since 1966.
The winner of the November election will take over the Senate seat held for nearly half a century by Strom Thurmond.
In the campaign to replace retiring Strom Thurmond, the then 3rd District Congressman Graham ran against a Libertarian candidate, Victor Kocher, Constitution Party candidate Ted Adams, and Judge Alex Sanders, the Democratic candidate for Thurmond's seat.
No, I haven't seen her since the high school reunion.
Since then, Senator Graham, who faces re-election next year, has garnered headlines for his, some might say, maverick streak. He's reached across the aisle to work with Democrats on various issues. His colleague from South Carolina hasn't as much.
This election should tell us as Republicans that South Carolina is ready to embrace the future. We're ready to engage the world. We're committed to challenging the status quo. We're serious about confronting our problems with new ideas and real solutions. And we're confident that we can seize our opportunities and work together to secure the future for ourselves, our state, and our nation.
Jim DeMint replaced the retiring Fritz Hollings in the 2004 election. The three-term congressional incumbent from Greenville faced South Carolina's superintendent of education in his race.
Backstage with the stars, huh?
You're right.
That's right, man.
Today, he's one of the more conservative members of the United States Senate and has achieved national prominence on the debate over immigration reform. And this week on The Big Picture, we are lucky enough to have, of course, the two United States senators. We are joined by Senator Jim DeMint and Senator Lindsey Graham. Both of you, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
Taking time out of your busy schedules to head on over here, and I certainly do appreciate this. We'll get right to the topics that we want to discuss. Pakistan, obviously, is preeminent in the news. As a matter of fact, I know that you just arrived, Senator Graham, from a plane trip, so I don't know if you've heard this or not, but former Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto has been placed under house arrest.
Again?
Again. Yes, as a matter of fact, she has been placed under a house arrest again. You know, we've seen the lawyers being arrested. We've been talking about the networks that have gone black as a result of what President Musharraf has done. Do you foresee, and I'll start with you, Senator Graham, any chance that there may be perhaps an American set of troops or a coalition to head on in there and try and reconcile this militarily?
No, I don't, but I can't imagine Pakistan surviving much longer with this kind of business model. You know, Musharraf has been a good ally to us. He really has taken on the Taliban. He's given us access to areas that have made it very hard for al-Qaeda to regroup. And in that regard, he's been a very good ally. But because of our value system, it's hard for us to sit on the sidelines, even when a friend's involved, and not say something about this. So I would urge President Musharraf to take President Bush's advice. have the elections, and don't put your opposition under house arrest because it destroys your legitimacy throughout the world. Allow the judiciary to go back and be an independent branch of the government. It will serve Pakistan well, but no, I don't foresee any military intervention.
Senator DeMint, I would imagine that you would probably echo that, but realize, of course, that in 1999, President Musharraf assumed power through a coup. I mean, we still consider him an ally despite that.
Well, since then he has been an ally, and this whole delicate situation should remind us that America doesn't have the luxury of walking away from the Middle East, from Pakistan. They have nuclear weapons. We need stabilizing forces in the Middle East, and we have a chance in Pakistan. I think he'll go ahead with the elections, but he needs our encouragement. He needs us to stand firm. And America is in a difficult situation. We shouldn't be supporting a dictator. The alternative, though, is not good. Yeah. So we need to do our best to make him work through this process, and I think that's going to happen, but we're going to continue to nudge him in the right direction.
We'll stay on the international scene right now, and I'll begin again with you, Senator Graham. ETV and Winthrop University just conducted a poll, which, and I'm sure this is going to be great news for you, shows that you're going to do well, despite the fact that your re-election is coming up. Despite that, however, and I'm going to quote what you said. Well, that is good news for you. I'm going to quote what you said a time ago. I'm very much willing to lose my job to make sure we don't lose this battle in Iraq. Now, an ETV Winthrop poll also said that 57% of registered Republicans said that we need to get out of Iraq within a year. These were Republicans here in South Carolina.
I can understand their frustrations, but we don't need to leave Iraq in chaos. The question about staying or leaving should be from our national security interest. Would it be smart a year from now to leave Iraq if that meant Al-Qaeda would come back and reoccupy a part of Iraq to be stronger? Would it be smart to leave Iraq so Iran would take over the southern part of Iraq and become a bigger menace? I think President Bush is right. He's not going to govern by polls. Jim is not. I'm not. We're going to make sure that our national security interests are best protected, and Iraq is becoming, to me, a great success story in terms of how our military has performed. The surge has worked beyond my expectation. To my Republican friends, Democrat and independent friends out there, Iraq is part of a global struggle. It's not an isolated event. Iran stands ready to fill the vacuum if there's a chaos in Iraq. They said so. I believe them. Al-Qaeda, bin Laden says, go to Iraq, go to the land of the two rivers. We can't afford to lose there. So bin Laden sees it as part of a global struggle. I do, Jim does, President Bush. We're going to stay there for our own national security interest, and when we leave, we'll come back based on success, not politics. Staying in Iraq, Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice recently said in an interview in regards to possible mistakes made in Iraq that, quote, I'm sure there were lots of things we may have done better. With that being said, what have we learned, and are we reconciling these issues?
Well, we're clearly on the right track now, and I think there's a lot of room for optimism. The Iraqis are standing up militarily. We've got a lot of work to do for their police force and with their government itself. But the fact is we've got a lot more security. The people have a lot more confidence. We're getting reports every day that the Iraqi people are turning on Al-Qaeda. So this is not the time to get cold feet and back off. One of the reasons I think we've backed Al-Qaeda down is sheer force, but also President Bush, senators like Lindsey Graham, just staying determined that we're not going to leave that country in chaos. And because of that, I think we've got the upper hand now, and we just need to keep the pressure on.
I'll start with you in this question, and Senator Graham, you brought up Iran just a moment ago, and I'm going to quote something that came over the wires today. Iranian President Ahmadinejad called some of his domestic critics, those in Iran, traitors for them criticizing what he has done against the West and against the United States. So does this mean, Senator DeMint, we should just stand by and let cooler heads prevail and democracy will eventually rule and diplomacy will rule, since we've done this since 1979?
Well, that is a good sign, and one of our hopes in Iran is that the people themselves will overthrow this radical government. And to what degree we can assist and give them aid, frankly, we like hearing from the people of Iran, because we think they can be our friends. A stabilizing force. The government is radicalized at this point, but the best solution for us as a country and the international community is for Iran to make a change internally themselves.
Senator?
Well, I couldn't agree more. To be honest with you, the Iranian regime is backing efforts to kill our troops in Iraq. There's overwhelming evidence. I've been there, Jim has been there, that the Iranian Revolutionary Guard has been supplying weapons to the insurgents in Iraq to drive us out. They would like nothing better than Iraq to fall into 3 parts and they could dominate the southern part of Iraq and be stronger. But it is good news that people in Iran see a world differently than their president, because the president of Iran has really painted a world that doesn't have much hope for the Iranians themselves. People are really asking me wherever I go, is Bush going to go to war? President Bush doesn't want another war with anybody. President Bush is begging the international community, the United Nations, the European Union, Russia, to stand firm to make sure the Iranian regime doesn't develop a nuclear weapon. The question for us is, do we believe this regime is trying to develop a nuclear weapon or peaceful nuclear power? That's the easy answer. They're not trying to develop a power plant for peaceful purposes. They're trying to enrich uranium to develop a weapon. It would be a nightmare for the world if you had a nuclear Iran. So now's the time to use diplomacy and to reinforce those segments within Iran that want to be part of the international community. But showing weakness to dictators and to thugs and to people like the president of Iran has never worked in the past.
Is it possible to have a relationship with Iran if they maintain this fundamentalist Islamic theocracy, yet they also have a duly elected government?
Well, I think the idea that there's a duly elected government in Iran is a joke, because they shut down the opposition. Yeah. They literally took people off the ballot. There is no free press. So to say that this guy is serving at the will of the people just belies the fact that the will of people can't be expressed in Iran. So we got to constructively engage Iran. The best way to contain Iran is through international community working together to impose economic sanctions. But for us as a nation to underestimate this threat would be a very big mistake.
All right, we've discussed Iran and Iraq. There's been too much agreement between the two of you, so we'll come up with a third I, immigration.
Sure.
Here we go. Senator Graham, again, as this immigration debate raged, and here's your quote, we're going to solve this problem. We're not going to run people down. I'm sure you're familiar with this. We're not going to scapegoat people. We're going to tell the bigots to shut up, and we're going to get this right. To whom were you referring?
Well, to the people who are bigots. They know it. I mean, not to people who disagree with me. I don't think I've ever lived my life in a way that if you disagree with me, I'll call you a bad name. But there's been people marching on our State House have used the immigration issue in a way just pure bigotry. That's part of this debate. It's a very small part of it. I don't want my state that, you know, the head of the Nazi Party for the whole country lives in Lawrence, South Carolina. You know, they marched on the State House during the middle of this trying to exploit this issue. Jim's position on this is sincere, honest, and makes a lot of sense. We've had a difference on immigration, but we've never exploited any one group to get ahead. So I hope we solve the problem. We agree that you need to secure the border before anything else works. We agree we need workers to supplement the workforce, and we need a workable solution to the 12 million. And we're going to push. Let's start with border security. That's what both of us agree on, and he's been a great champion of trying to secure our border. Nobody in the Senate has spoken louder about trying to solve the border security issue than Jim.
So you think this billion-dollar fence is the answer, or one of the answers?
Well, it's part of the answer. Sure. We need to remember that South Carolina particularly is made up of people from all over the country and all over the world. Immigration is very important to us, and recognizing people from all over the world, all nationalities, is important. All the phone calls and emails I got during the immigration debate, there really wasn't a hint of anti-immigration, but an insistence that we first secure our borders. And actually, Lindsey Graham has been one of the champions of doing that with the funding, and we agree on most parts of it. We need a legal system that works, and we don't have that. The American people don't yet trust us to secure our borders. We're making progress, and we're getting good reports. It's not without controversy building a fence, and Americans really don't like that idea. Right. But if we don't have a secure border, then we don't need an immigration policy, because people just come and go as they want. And that's not a good idea in this dangerous time that we live. So we're making progress on the border. We're also developing prototype programs with worker ID systems so employers will know who's legal and who's not. But in the meantime, we need to expand temporary worker visas, high-tech visas. There's no question that in areas of our economy we need more workers. And we need to find some agreement in Congress of how to solve that problem. But we can only do it if we have a legal system that can enforce it. And so we're moving that direction, and I hope by early next year we'll start seeing the reports of the fact that we can control our borders better and that we can move quickly to solve our problem of immigration. Because it is a problem, and I respected those who were a part of the effort. We've got a problem, we need to solve it, we can't ignore it.
So one of the other issues, and this is very important, I think there are 12, 15, some say as many as 20 million undocumented immigrants, illegal aliens, whatever you'd like to call them here in the United States. What do we do about them, Senator?
Well, first, we need to have a system that works. I mean, one of the problems, we have so many here, we didn't control our borders, there's no way to identify who's here, and so it makes Americans anxious to start saying, okay, we'll just legalize the ones who are here, and then we'll develop a legal system. The first step is the border security, worker ID system, and then we need to figure a reasonable way to work those who came here illegally into that system. It may be going home, it may be other types of things, and people need to be treated differently. But the fact is, if we don't enforce our laws as a nation, then no one's going to respect them, and we can't move forward as a country, and we discredit our heritage of immigration. So I think we're taking the right steps now, but all Americans need to know, I mean, this is a problem we need to solve. We can't just turn our heads the other way.
And just to amplify what he said, why do we have 12 or 15 million people here illegally? Jobs. People come here, they can make more in one day in America than they can make 30 days or 2 months or 3 months in Central America and Mexico. And the way you control jobs is the key to immigration. You can't walk across the street. You need a barrier so people don't walk across the street. 40% of the people here legally had a visa and overstayed it. There's no way to track those folks. We need to know within 48 hours your visa's expired. Let every law enforcement agency in the country know that you're in this country legally. If they catch you, they can do something about it. We got to modernize our tracking system. But to get a job in America, the only document you need is a Social Security card. I can go to the Anderson jockey lot and get you a Social Security card by midnight. It's a nightmare for employers to find out who is legal and who's not in front of you. So we're working together to get a pilot program to better identify people who are seeking employment. Once you control the jobs, then I think you can turn this thing around.
And in the meantime, we're making the problem worse by states like New York that are looking at it. We know they're illegal, and we're going to give them a driver's license, because they can take the driver's license and get other IDs, and then employers have no clue who's legal. So we've got to encourage states and communities not to be sanctuary cities, sanctuary states. We need to enforce our laws so everyone will respect them.
And we could spend hours talking about this, and we've done the show a number of times. I don't know how many times I've had Commissioner Weathers on to talk about the importance of the worker visa.
Well, we agree with 90% of this.
I think we're all on the same page now.
Too much agreement. This doesn't make for good TV.
Well, I know it doesn't.
Come on, gentlemen. Let's talk about the economy right now. You're on Senate Budget Committee, you're on the Joint Economic Committee. Senator DeMint, I'll begin with you. We've got oil prices, even accounting for inflation, are at their highest right now. The dollar is at its lowest, even below the Canadian dollar. We're dealing with this subprime mortgage fiasco. Are we headed for a recession? And as you answer that, think of this constant drumbeat that we in the media talk about constantly. Does that play a role in it as well?
Well, I hope we're not headed for a recession, and I don't think we need to be, but we do need to recognize that some of our problems are the result of years of bad policy. Our country has a lot of natural resources, including oil and natural gas, yet for years the other party has blocked the development of these resources, and now we're heavily dependent on other countries. We stopped nuclear power generation in our country while Europe moved ahead, and we burned a whole lot more coal. And now the same people who closed down the nuclear plants are complaining about the environment. We have to recognize that bad policy is going to result in problems. And so part of the problem now, we're importing so much oil. That means we're exporting a lot of American dollars. That increases the supply of American dollars all around the world, which lowers the value of American dollars. And so American dollars buy less. And so these problems, if we connect the dots, go back to a lot of bad policy in Washington. And we need to wake up as a country and and stop being dependent on other countries, and we need to make this the best business environment in the world. So hopefully the next election will bring out some of these issues, and Americans will clearly see which party's taking them in the right direction.
Talk about bad policies. It leads right into the next question right now. We're leading with a $9 trillion national debt.
I told you he was smart.
That's right, he is. But you know, the quote from the gentleman that you're supporting for president is that the Republicans, as well as the Democrats, are spending money like drunken sailors in Washington, D.C. right now. Is that one manifestation of these bad decisions that have been made that have contributed to our difficult economic times?
I think government at its best is the government that's trusted by its people, and the Republicans really don't trust Republicans anymore to spend their money wisely. Jim and I introduced this past week a constitutional balanced budget amendment that would require the Congress to balance the books like we do in South Carolina, regardless of who's in power. But the big picture is the theme of this show. The big picture is, does Iran really want a nuclear weapon? If they do, what are we going to do about it? Is Iraq part of a global struggle or an isolated event? Do we live in a global economy where our policies matter? Yes. We have a tax code that's pushing people offshore. We have a regulatory system that drives people to other countries. We need to look at litigation reform. I support a loser pay rule. I think Jim does too. So the fundamentals of the economy are good, but this $9 trillion debt is just a small part of what we actually owe. Entitlements are the key to our prosperity domestically. Will people in our job step up to the plate and work with Democrats to save Social Security from going bankrupt? In 1955, when I was born, there were 16 workers for every retiree. Today there's 3. In 20 years from now, there's 2. Social Security begins to spend more than it takes in a little over a decade. By 2040, all the money's gone. Medicare is in far worse shape. The demographic changes in this country of where people live longer, there are fewer workers, is catching up with us. So for Jim and I and our generation, the challenge of our time is, can we sit down with people on the other side and turn this around before it gets too hard to solve?
Can I ask a simple yes or no question? Can you?
Yes.
Do you feel that way?
I think we can. If we stop looking at government as a national charity and start looking at it as providing a framework of law and policy where freedom can prevail and freedom can work for everyone. So there's a difference in philosophy in Washington, and we can't be a charity to everyone and solve every problem, but we can make much better policy than we have in the past. And I think we will, and that's going to be the subject of the 2008 debate, because one party is going to want to go one way towards more federal government, the other is going to take us to a smaller government and hopefully less taxes.
Well, let's bring up the election if I could, and we're running up against the clock right now. And again, I could spend hours talking about this, but again, we'll get right into this.
But nobody could listen for hours.
Oh, sure, why not? Senator DeMint, you're supporting Governor Romney for the Republican nomination. Is a man who once said that he'd do more to promote gay rights than Ted Kennedy, a viable candidate in South Carolina.
I'm looking for a guy who's been a CEO, who knows how to manage something. The fact that so many of us Republicans are endorsing different candidates says we've got a good field out there. I think we've got 4 or 5 really good candidates. Mitt Romney has shown me, as governor of Massachusetts, that when there's a problem, he tried to make the private sector work. He tried to make it work with health care. He's a man with unquestionable values. He has been a CEO. He knows how to put good people around him. But we've got other good candidates, too. I just was looking outside of Washington, D.C. when I was looking for mine.
Senator McCain has been running, in effect, for 9 years here. Yeah. He's still only polling in the high single digits. Is he a viable candidate?
I think he's very viable, because I think John's a reliable conservative who will go into the job with commander-in-chief experience second to none. But the point for Republicans is that you're lucky to have good people to pick from. And the person we're going to run against is Senator Clinton. I like her personally, but I don't want her to be president. So all the Republicans who are listening out there, back your candidate, but don't lose sight of the big picture. And the biggest prize, no pun intended, the biggest prize on the table is who's going to appoint the next 2 or 3 Supreme Court justices. I am very high on Senator McCain to be our nominee and our president, but at the end of the day, we have to come together because so much is at stake in 2008.
Again, limited time right now, so I'm just going to mention a few topics, if we could. Very, very brief responses. First topic, we'll talk about global warming. Quick comments on that, if you can.
It's a great, whether it's real or not, it's an opportunity to bring people together to solve what Jim described as the biggest problem facing us in the short term, dependence on foreign oil.
So you still don't think it's real?
I think it is real. I don't know how much man is contributing to it, but I know nuclear power is part of the answer. If we could bring environmentalists together, nuclear power people to be less dependent on carbon, less dependent on Mideast oil, it would be a great step forward for this country.
There's no question the Earth has been heating up, but the science that suggests that man is doing it is very questionable at this point. But that's not a good reason for us not to continue to clean up the air. So irrespective of the reasons, getting carbons out of the air, cleaner air and water is something we need to do.
That's a quick response.
For a senator, that's real quick.
That's very good. Again, one final
impressed.
comment, and I wanted to throw this name out here because I think it's so interesting. Bill Clinton. Comment.
Bill Clinton, he's a former president.
Yes, he is.
That's all I've got to say.
Senator?
Glad, yeah, good answer.
Very good. Interesting.
Good answer.
Okay, if we're going to keep it quick like that, Stephen Colbert.
Who?
Stephen Colbert.
Incredibly funny.
Yeah.
Should he have run?
Why not? Politics could use a laugh.
Should as a Democrat, I think.
Very good. Senators, thank you very much for joining us. We do
Thank you.
appreciate this.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure, and we need to do this again sometime and make the show an hour long.
Yes,
That'd be
right.
okay?
Okay.
Right. We'll find more to disagree on if you just give us some
Very
time.
good. Senators, thank you very much. For more information on this discussion, head to our website, myetv.org. And don't forget, of course, every Friday morning following our program, head to our radio stations. We've got The Big Picture on the radio every Friday morning at 9 following Morning Edition. I'm Andrew Gobeil. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.